and has been working on talent search, team management, eSports event management, and community building. India has a huge opportunity right at the doorstep to make a name on the eSports ecosystem and needs to grab the opportunity with both hands. What's missing, I think, is proper knowledge, a structured pathway, and a professional approach amongst players and organizations. With these few pens covered, India is going to be the next big thing in the esports market. Thus, Gamergist works for holistic development of the players, the organizations, and the gaming community. Gamergist also believes that a strong foundation in the transparency in recruitment, management, and development of players and organizations shall create a culture of producing excellence in esports. And we have three special guests with us today. We have Mr. Neel Shah, Program Director of Global Institute of Sports Business. We have Ms. Nivedita, eSports Strategist at Microsoft, and Mr. Gurbaksh, AVP Sports at Mumbai. If I start off with Mr. Neel, it would be really great, apart from the introduction, if you can just pitch in how you have been going on about the eSports ecosystem, as well as the educational institute that you have been running.
No, thank you, Gaurav, and it's a pleasure to be here. My background in esports is probably less than my other two panelists, but I'm fortunate to be in a space, in education where I have the opportunity to be at the forefront of kind of the trends going on, and I get to impart that knowledge and facilitate that knowledge to our students. So my background is I've been working in sports for the last 18 years. 7 of those years were there's 8 of those years were in the US with Major League Soccer. And I did see the rise of esports, in the US market from 2002 to 2009 while I was there. And then I moved to India in late 2009. And I've been able to be a part of the growth of the football industry. Specific to esports in education, we would be, Global Institute of Sports Business would be missing the boat completely if we didn't incorporate esports into different aspects of our educational platform and institute. So I'll talk about it more as we go, but my connect with esports is very much on the side of understanding what's happening in the industry and bringing it to the next generation of leaders in the esports industry.
Absolutely. We also have Ms. Nivedita from Microsoft. She works as an esports strategist there. And Nivedita, why don't you go forward and just introduce yourself to our viewers today?
Sounds good. So my name is Nivedita. I'm from India. I moved here to the United States in 2018, did my master's in game design at Full Sail University. Before that, I did my undergrad in India, my computer science engineering at Satyabama. And I worked with Amazon for 3 years as a visual designer, and moved here, pursued my master's in game design, worked at Epic Games for 6 months as a production intern, and then I got this awesome job at Microsoft, and I moved to Orlando from North Carolina.
Absolutely. We also have Mr. Gurbaksh here today. He works at Mumbai. He looks after the esports as well as other verticals of sports at Mumbai. So I would love to have this opportunity to present to Mr. Gurbaksh so that he can present himself and introduce himself.
Thanks, Gaurav. It's a pleasure to be here. Already there's a lot of experience that's there on the panel, but where I come from is a pure sport background. For the last 10 years, I've been working with the sports industry, For the first 5 years, I was working with Red Bull India, where the experience was, it just set the crux of what we do and the way we think in terms of global marketing. And moving from there, I joined eSports, where we did grassroots level football development. Neel is aware of the fact that we I think were the first few people to go to Germany for a development program, and Kabaddi as a sport has grown from leaps and bounds. So I think those are some spaces that we have been in. In 2017 is when we got a chance to do something with esports, and since then the journey has been beautiful. Having said that, 2017 we've been thinking about the sport from 2015, and during the Red Bull days, the understanding of game was at a certain level, and then now it is very different, completely different. So I think that whole journey has been beautiful, how the sport has also been evolved. So we'll speak more about when we move ahead.
Absolutely. Welcome you all to the webinar once again. So as we all know that a large population of Indian parents have hardly ever heard about the term esports, and actually they're a hard nut to crack, when they see their kids on the gaming devices. So it becomes very challenging that, pro gaming is a viable career path that they can see for their kids. And I believe this has led to a very limited number of people actually putting in adequate effort and training to compete on a global level. I know there are a lot of esports players that have been playing different titles for a long period of time, but somewhere or the other, this leads to a dearth of sponsors as well as playing skills. What do you say? So, Nivedita, when we talk about how there's actually a very less number of very few people knowing about esports, and how this has led to a less number of people actually getting into this career. What do you think? How can India improve on this?
So, like you said, right, like parents don't know mostly about esports, and I understand, like even my own parents, right? Like when I sit with PS4, like hours and hours together, they both look at me like as if, don't you think you don't have anything else to do? Like you have to study. But I've been so passionate about gaming right from the age of 8 that I always wanted to try out new games, even though if it's violent, right? I never used to stop myself from trying out new games, because that is like the way we look at it as well. And me, every genre, everything I tried was a learning for me. Like I'm very good at fighting games. That's what I'm like most passionate about. And then like sports is something which is really, really, gets to me, like a stress reliever for me. Right. So definitely, in higher education, right, introducing esports and bringing in, games that, can be like a healthy competition among students, and training them to play in leagues and stuff like with a team. This not only is focusing just on the gaming side of things, but also helps them to understand how to be a team player. That is definitely useful in the future when you go work for a company. And absolutely. Also, networking and trying to meet new people will also help them on the long run, communication matters, that develops, and then like self-confidence. So many things like these are also going to help an individual when they are part of esports. So it's not just that, gaming is just not going to look at us or make our lives bad, but gaming is definitely helping us in a lot of good ways too. And I personally use gaming even for, differently abled kids for physical therapy and stuff. So there's a lot of good angles to it. Like we can put that application in a lot of good way. It can, be a stress reliever, and even for old people. Right. So to avoid them from getting Alzheimer's in the future, right? If you give a pattern of, gaming for them, just like Candy Crush or something like that. Even my grandmother, she plays Candy Crush. So that will keep their mind super occupied, and that's what is going to help them from avoiding all these diseases in the future. Right.
And I think it's a very good thing that the mobile battle royale game PUBG, what PUBG has done to the Indian community, and it actually introduced the Indian community to the competitive sphere of gaming or esports, and with pre-existing titles like CS:GO, League of Legends, Dota, the industry is at an all-time peak with around 175 million downloads alone in India. So events like ESL1, COBX Masters, and DreamHack have gained enormous attraction, and that has led to industry experts to believe that our country might soon be moving to a much bigger state. So as we move on for the evening, we'll be talking about 3 areas: the community engagement, education and career, and professionalism in esports. So as we move forward with community engagement in esports, we have to say that in a broader aspect, how has it engaged the community? So Nivedita, again, my first question goes to you, that being a part of a community where you have been working with
Gaurav, I think your voice was cracking.
Being a part of the community where you have been working,
I think your voice is
people and trying to pull up in esports, how your experience have been so far, and how the community has taken up your idea, like any challenges that you faced, and how have you overcome them while working together with the disabled kids?
Yeah, so
is this question from
so with respect to the community here, like any games I host, right? Like I've always seen like a very healthy competition here. Like people here in America, like whoever joins my esports events, I've seen the way they, try to communicate, boost their team up, and make sure that they're all like having a good plan, even though they're like new, right on board with the game and stuff. If it's like a team which they have formed by themselves, yes, they have a really, really good strategy when they get into the game. So mostly I focus on Call of Duty, League of Legends, and Fortnite. So all these three games were my, to-go tournaments. And what I did was I wanted to give a lot of opportunities for people in India, because I know a lot of gamers are there and they don't have much exposure to esports. So in my event, I expanded globally and I started introducing players from India to join my tournaments. So since COVID happened and that's when I started to work, I had to begin my career in esports virtually. So it was a challenge for me, definitely, for sure. I did not worry too much about it. So anything, since I'm from a computer science engineering background, of course, I take up all this as a challenge, and I started to explore, how I can connect many devices, bring in a lot of people, and, help them have the best experience. And it has been really good. Community-wise, I think people from India, whoever joined, made friends with people over here, and they've started to learn more about new strategies and how to, approach the game in a different perspective. So that's what I felt was a big success for me, connecting people from two different countries and helping them understand each other's strategy, right? And they also understood how to, use a proper language and stuff. So all this made a lot of difference in the events I used to host. And with respect to differently able kids, so that's been a passion of mine. I've always been a people person, even back home. So I love to do a lot of charity. I love to do, a lot of help for a lot of different people. And that's when I came here to do my master's in game design, my final year thesis was completely focused on how to make devices and games for differently able kids. And when I joined Microsoft, and Microsoft being this awesome company where, they completely focus on accessibility, right? So I dedicated myself to do more research. I found a couple of parents here who are willing to use the adaptive controllers that Microsoft made and with Xbox, and try to help their kids at least slow physical therapy with gaming. Right. There are a lot of categories, so you have to be really, really good in understanding even the medical side of things. It's like, say for example, a kid has cerebral palsy, right? I cannot just walk in, give an adaptive controller, give a couple of switches, and then say what, this is the game, I want you to play. That's not going to happen, because their response rate is pretty lesser, and for them to process an image, right? Say, for example, you're standing in front of a person and that kid has cerebral palsy and he cannot directly look at you the moment you say hi, right? It's a period of time, and then that's when your image processes in his brain. So that's time gap you need to give when you're developing a game too. So helping them slowly with all these switches and trying to engage them with games is definitely interesting and challenging. I am working with a particular kid right now, and he is amazing. I really hope that, gaming can change his world also. So that is my focus, like, making them feel more welcome in the community, right? In the
Right.
future, if I'm able to bring them into an esports world and have them play a game, would be my biggest success, right? So I'm working towards it. Research is still going on, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I'm seeing that smile on my face, and like seeing them happy when they can do something. But this is like truly mind blowing.
Right, absolutely. So that's a very noble gesture that you have been taking forward, and the vision of yours is really, really commendable. Taking from that, Mr. Neel, being an academician, considering the trend of the country adapting to interesting and upcoming verticals, how do you think Indian culture would react to the uprise of esports in the country? How would parents react? How would our family members react when they see in front of us in front of the screens, and how can we overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, Nivedita answered it quite well as well from her own experience. Even my experience growing up in the U.S. in the 1980s, my mother was in the medical field. My father is an engineer. So I had to either be a doctor or an engineer, like so many other people. And when I chose sports management as a pathway when I was 17 years old, and especially to work in professional soccer in America, they thought I was definitely, giving my ticket to be homeless. And my parents thought, like, if I wasn't going to be a coach or a player, then I would be a mascot. Like, they didn't know what else there was as a job in sports management. And so, but over the years, when I was there, I saw that the popularity of sport was so high that all of a sudden it became more respectable. Now in India, the tides are changing quite a bit. There was a time where parents would be open to their children working or playing in cricket because there's money there. And with money comes this thought of security and comforts. It's human nature to be weary of something you don't know much about. And we all know that the generations before us know certain industries are going to bring security. But what they don't know a lot about is, and a lot of people don't know, is how big of an industry sports has become. And that's mainstream sport. And what's interesting, and even just the last few years, we were talking earlier about PKL, before it started, just because of PKL and ISL and the U17 World Cup, all of a sudden this concept of working in sports professionally is becoming a bit more of a part of the conversation, not just in tier 1 markets but in tier 2. So speaking specifically to esports, yes, inevitably parents are going to be uncomfortable with seeing their children, playing esports all the time. It's not something that most parents will support. Some will, but most won't. And that's okay. I mean, I don't expect people to change their entire mindset about something immediately. Also, what's going to happen is if a child said that they want to follow Nivedita's path or Gurbaksh's path or anybody else's path, while they might be upstanding citizens, their parents will say, are you sure you don't want to be into IT or something other than this particular path? Because that's normal too. What's going to change that, Gaurav, is when they start seeing esports broadcasted more on Star Sports, which is happening more, when they start seeing it on Sony, when you start seeing on other mainstream channels, when you start seeing athletes and the media starts publicizing the kind of money that these athletes are making, when it becomes something that we're not just PUBG, but other games are, popularized throughout the country in the same way that, PUBG is, what parents will start to do is say, oh, okay, just like my son can be a Sachin, or my son can be a Dhoni, or my daughter can be Zon, or Deepika, or whatever it might be, Sanya, they can be this esports hero. And the beautiful thing about India is that, one is we have a lot of people here, but two is that the infrastructure that's required in sports to grow outside of esports, you need a lot of infrastructure, so it takes a lot of time. Esports, you don't need as much infrastructure. So I believe that the growth of esports to becoming from where it is now to becoming far more respected in the mainstream community will be far greater and faster than maybe getting football or kabaddi or kho or basketball or volleyball as a particular career pathway. because I just feel like we have everything in place for esports to blossom and become a mainstream phenomenon in the media and in people's homes much faster. So when that happens, I think parents will be more comfortable with having their child go that direction. Many still won't, and that's okay. That's in any industry. But I think even some in India is still a lot, which is the beautiful thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and for that, a lot of brands play a major role in conceptualizing how people look at esports or any other sport per se. Say, if we take example of the World Cup that happened in 2017, it got a huge hype because we saw a lot of people actually involved in it. From my experience working in the World Cup, I've seen around 1,500 volunteers who are inspired to join sports management post the World Cup. So that's something really great that had happened in the under 17 World Cup that happened in India, apart from the different marketing and branding aspects. So coming to Mr. Gurbaksh, as a leading brand in the esports ecosystem of India, what are the challenges that you, Mumbai, had to face in terms of engaging the community? What have been the success rates, and what other strategies that you have taken up for pulling in the crowd?
Okay, so I think there's a lot that's been covered by Neel and Nivedita, but what I would like to add is I would like to just go back to the topic that we were speaking about in terms of the engagement that is happening in terms of parents. I think we have come a long way in terms of esports in India. I think it's been good 15 years, I would say, where from somewhere to somewhere we've reached, but there's a long way to go. What's happening in countries where esports is massive is that obviously we're narrowing that whole difference of how big the gaming industry is. But what I also feel is changing is that the current gaming, the set of athletes that we see right now, they are just a great, I would say, they are the Sachins or the Virats of gaming right now. People are looking at them right now and thinking, okay, they want to be maybe like a scout, or they want to become like Mortal. Like, people might not know, but Mortal as a gamer, he donated his winnings to the Indian Army. Like, when you do such thing, that's when a parent would say, okay, I don't mind if my son or a daughter becomes a gamer. This is a great thing. I think on the other hand, the challenge is that the gamers, there's a casual gamer who just starts playing video game. Everybody plays video games. I've played, I'm sure everyone is at some point in their life. The importance is for them to realize that this can be a profession, because they only don't think like that, which is not their fault, because there is no exposure. But now my nephew, who's a 9-year-old, he is not only just playing the game, but at the same time he is making vlogs, and he's doing he's following these legends of gaming in the world of gaming. So I think it's slowly changing. Also, earlier there were cyber cafes where people were not allowed to go, because you end up paying a lot of money, and parents used to come and they used to land up at the cyber cafe and take their kids back home, and all those sorts of challenges were there. But the point is, now a young gamer like a 7-year-old or 8-year-old or even a 15-year-old, they have a device right in the center of the hall, and he's playing on his mobile. So mentally the parent is fine, okay, my son is or a daughter is right here and they're playing games, so it's okay. It's for their mental health. It's better than, okay, if they're watching a movie and if they're playing a game, it's the same thing. But this is like more engaging. They're talking to more people. They're talking to like-minded people. And I think that's the whole new development that's there now. Coming to the challenge that esports still has, or maybe what we have seen in the last few years, is I think the biggest challenge is the money. The kind of money that esports get right now globally is massive, but then again, India comes with its own challenges. There is still some pressure. People who have just finished college, or maybe they are doing their masters or just trying to get a job. For them it's difficult because it's not enough money, and there's a lot of pressure from the parents that you need to do the right thing. So for them to choose now, it's a little difficult. Yes, if there's a pathway from the start that kids can choose, then it's a very different thing. In terms of engaging with fans, I think esports is one of the biggest tools that globally a lot of teams from other fields of sports have chosen. Like, people are aware of the fact that Barcelona, Real Madrid, these teams have esports teams under the same name. So the point is, for them also, they realize that for us, the fan base has come to a certain point. Barcelona has reached a fan following. Okay, this is going to stay and maybe grow a little bit from here. But esports help them to grow that fan base even higher. And that's what is happening. There are so many athletes we know now, from David Beckham to yesterday, Paul Pogba announced that he's getting a team in Call of Duty. So these are big, great initiatives that these athletes are now, the mainstream athletes are now getting into. That's one thing. As Mumba, what we feel is, we've been in other sports like kabaddi. Again, kabaddi is a sport that's come a long way, from mud to mat. On TV, you see this sport. It's maybe second after cricket in the country. What we've realized, the look and feel and the to be asked for it should not, which usually the case is. Can you hear me?
Right. I think we lost you on the last part. On the last sentence.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. So what I'm trying to say is that for us, we realize that we need to make a brand that is aspirational for kids to tomorrow say, we really want to play for Mumba.
Absolutely.
There needs to be something about it. What we've seen again there, and the great part about this is, like me sitting here, it's more sharing my experience, but there's still so much to learn. Every day, the world of gaming is evolving so fast. And if you don't evolve with that same pace, you are gone. Sorry, boss. You've kind of missed the bus somewhere. So you have to keep it up, like with that pace. The other thing is, we have now engaged with fashion designers. We just did a jersey designing competition, which was judged by Narendra Kumar Ahmed, who's India's one of the best designers. We'll be doing something with music now, and in the future we are also thinking of doing something with the grassroots program of gaming. So these are some things that it's not pure gaming. Then it's about, like, you can engage at so many touch points, like so many levels. There's music, there's fashion, there's kabaddi and gamers playing together. Like, our kabaddi players, they played a game of PUBG with our main PUBG players. So it's a great support functions that come together, and we try to do stuff. So that's what it is.
Absolutely. So the main key take point from that, I would say, is that every brand that sets up in India should have that aspirational motive for everyone to follow. Only then people will try to follow their stars, like how we, like right now, gamers are following stars like Mortal, Scout, and many others. So that's one thing that I would like to point out to our viewers. Like, there has to be more brands in the market that set up that aspirational value. So also, this industry doesn't only generate jobs, like as Mr. Gurbaksh said, only for professional gamers, but also for bloggers, for shoutcasters, advertisers, tournament organizers, streamers, analytics, and many more. So my next question for Mr. Neel would be that, being an academician, what would be the different career options that esports enthusiasts can pursue, referring to international and national prospects?
Yeah, it's wide open. I mean, you have to look at the numbers. In India, it's touching on $1 billion industry or more, and globally, it's in the billions. And so it's not like you just it's like a passion that's what gets you the job. We need trained people across all different aspects of the esports ecosystem to train people, not just generalists, right? And so what that does is that it provides the opportunity for somebody to work in. If you love esports and you're good at marketing, you can do something in marketing. You don't even have to love esports, but you can be a good marketer and pick up esports. You can be in finance, you can be in law, you can be in HR, you can be in analytics, you can be in business development, sponsorship, and the list goes on and on. the same, and I think this is what is hard for a lot of people to grasp in general sports and also specific to esports, is that it's a proper industry, just like banking or just like the restaurant industry or whatever else. You need all the same. It's a business and business management, and you need those skills. So one is that I would recommend that if somebody has an interest to do something in esports, to understand what is their qualification from a business perspective. What is their strength? So are they good at communications? Are they good at analytics? Are they good at law, or are they interest? And then they can kind of combine the two and see how they can provide value to a youth sports, or provide value to any of the esports companies that are set up, or even a company like yours as well, Gaurav, how they can add value to it. The second thing is that if somebody is not in esports at all right now, but they have a couple years experience in engineering, or they have a couple years experience in computer science, or video game create. Well, video game is very connected to it, but they have years of experience in other areas of life, and they can find a way and get a mentor who's in esports, who's deeply connected to it, and help them understand how to package their strengths, consolidate their strengths and their experience, and bring it in. There are ways that way. What Gurbaksh was just talking about, and I'm not as deeply involved in it, but it's clear that there is a foundation that's already there in India, and now it's still, in a way, it's a sunrise industry, even though there's a lot of money in it. We need to build it. So the people who are watching or listening to this stream, or people who are interested in eventually being in esports, I want people to get that it's not like there's these set ready-made positions and you just pop yourself into them and you're now the head of marketing of a Umumba or in Cypher or whatever it might be. You are actually having to come in and figure out how you can contribute and build on the foundation of the esports industry. And that's a challenge for people who aren't very creative or have that hustle attitude. And that's a great opportunity for those people who say, damn, I want it. I want to be part of the growth of esports in India. And I am a really good digital marketer. And I can come in and I can help build community engagement through the digital platform for any esports team in India. And I'm going to do that. Or I have great people skills, and I'm going to do athlete management for any of the athletes. Or I can sell anything. So I'm going to sell sponsorships for an esports team. Or I'm great at broadcast production, and I'm going to go to Star Sports, or I'm going to go to a network, and I'm going to help them produce the next esports tournament. Or I'm a great event person. So there's a place for everyone in esports, as long as you want to be there and you can identify where your piece of the pie is and how you can actually add on to and put some frosting or some other toppings on that pie.
Absolutely. So as we were talking about more people coming into the industry, if they don't have a prior understanding of esports per se, but their experience and expertise can play a huge role in esports right now. So coming to Mr. Gurbaksh, we also got this question from one of our viewers. How would you suggest young esports entrepreneurs to kick off their projects in esports, and what would you suggest to passionate gamers on how they could build a career in gaming, and what can be the alternative choices?
I think in what he meant, I think it covers most of it. Like in terms of what you study as a course of esports, there are various streams that you can be part of when it comes to esports. But I think the most important learning that I have is, or maybe a suggestion, is that getting the base right. If you don't have the base right, it's definitely a shaky place to be, because it's a difficult place to be in. It's like a game of Lego. If you get your base right, then you can break something on top and then still make something else out of it. Games are changing every day. The importance of every game changes. Your attention span of gamers are changing every day. Today somebody's playing PUBG, tomorrow someone playing Call of Duty. So it's just that the passion changes every day. So I think to have the right base for the people who are just getting into the industry, it's very, very, very important. The other thing I would say is which is very important, is that the streaming space. there were some gamers who then evolved into entertainers and are still very successful. So I think what's very important is to choose the right game, to be in the right place. And as Neel mentioned, whenever you're talking about esports, or maybe when we were talking about esports 3 years down the line, it was just taken as, okay, esports is also there. It can't be an also there situation with esports now, because esports is right in the center. During COVID, there's nothing else happening but only esports. So let's understand the importance of it, and the importance that comes with it is of the athletes, the most important people. They are pretty much the core of it. Now, when you talk about athletes, it's very, very important how you manage these athletes. It's very easy, believe me, to manage an athlete who is maybe 25 plus or maybe 23 plus. They've done with their education. Now they know that, okay, this is the sport for them. But if you're managing a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they are still in school, they are in college, this is just their passion, but they play a really good game. So it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult to be very honest, it's for them to keep the loyalty to one team. It's not something that money can buy. It is what you do with them at that age will kind of definitely make them in whatever way. Maybe tomorrow they might become the greatest of the streamers, not the best of the gamers. But it's very important, that connection. Like Nivedita also mentioned, she's working with an athlete. It's important to have that connect. So athletes becoming the most important part of the whole ecosystem. How do you then carve your whole journey from there? It's very, very important. So I hope, and also I think just to cap it all, cost and how do you run esports. Okay, I can tomorrow say that, okay, you can come and play a game for me, but how I'm going to pay you is my biggest challenge. And figuring that out and knowing what your math is before starting anything with esport is very, very important. And it's important to acknowledge the fact that you can wait it out, but you should not just barge into it and do something which is at that point not feasible for you. Just
I think you're on mute, Gaurav.
Oh, my bad. So as we talk about how vast and diverse the whole the country is, rather, with people ranging from such diverse age group. So Nivedita, as Gurbaksh correctly mentioned, that we'll have to work with streamers, with other applied experiences in the field of esports. So as per your experience of time frames of learning, how much time do we really need to adapt to the technology which come in relevance to esports, like different computer peripherals, phones, gadgets? So what's your take on this?
That's an interesting question. So there's really no particular time frame. I would say it's more the passion and you wanting to get on board with what you really love, right? That's what is going to speed up the process in learning. And I would say if there's someone with regards to you're talking about introducing someone to the device newly, or you're talking about just from the streamer's perspective?
I'm talking about the general perspective, someone who is getting into gaming to someone who has already been there in the gaming sphere. I believe the percentage of people who are not yet into the sphere is larger, so we can talk on a general point of perspective.
Yeah, I think that would pretty much be more with practice, like maybe a week of, or maybe a month, they can sit and play games, and they can get accustomed to the device, and because mobile is definitely different from PC, and then all these are different from console, right? The way I know so many people, for example, this is Xbox's controller, right? That's so different from PS4's. So some people are super comfortable with PC gaming that they wouldn't want to use a controller. So all these are different. So exposing them to use different devices, see how exactly, which is more comfortable for them and where they can learn faster, and bringing them on board with that and helping them understand as much as they can in the gaming world for them with that particular device, and then slowly introducing them to the other devices would make more sense. So perfectly, if I would say, there's not a fixed time, but it comes with learning. Probably a month of dedication would help them. Yeah.
Absolutely. So like me, I've been playing FIFA since my childhood days. I just couldn't shift to controllers. I've still been playing on keyboard. So that's something people are quite, that's their adaptive. They are habituated to different ways of playing, and that's how technology actually affects. I have been, yes.
Honestly, I don't know where my PS4 controller is, but I was so addicted. So in my mobile, you'll find me playing all this, Gardenscapes and all those games, right?
Yes.
But when I get on to, if I have to play the same thing with my controllers, I will be super bad. So when I get on my PS4 and my Xbox, if I can play Call of Duty on my Xbox really well, I would be super bad with the PS4 controller. I don't know why, but maybe if it's the hold or like the way the keys are placed. But I can play The Witcher or, Star Wars or NBA super well with my PS4, but I wouldn't be able to play the same with my PC. So that's the, it's a wide world. Like a lot of things are challenging when it comes to the different consoles, but with practice and time it takes, it really, helps us get better. So.
Right. So also from Siddharth Jain again, that how do you think investment plays a part in the whole esports ecosystem of the country? How do you think it is required, and do you think that we should be opened up to different revenue streams apart from the mainstream ones that we have right now? That question goes to Neel.
Yeah, I mean, investment is the most important part. Let's be honest about it, because investment is something that we're not. We can all have these dreams we want to build, and we're all looking at, if esports was invented in India, like Kabaddi, and we created something, and we're like, okay, whatever we do is in professionalizing it is better than what existed before. But right now we're looking at Europe, we're looking at East Asia, we're looking at US, and we're comparing ourselves to the kind of growth that they've had and the kind of best practices that they have. And we're in a country where esports is very popular and at the grassroots level, or the kind of in a lot of parts of the masses. But our expectations is to become a proper esports industry. Now, for that to happen, you need two things. You need investment and you need qualified people to manage that money. And they both kind of come together, because somebody's not going to invest if they don't feel like that investment's going to a right place. Why some companies like Tencent and others are out there doing what they're doing is because they find people to invest in, and they find organizations that know what they're doing, even Microsoft and others, and then they invest with them and they grow and they collaborate or they buy out. In India, a lot of us are figuring out this industry right now, and it's not. And you could be an expert abroad, and you could be an esports expert in America, but then you come to India and it's a very different landscape. It takes time to understand how to navigate the kind of idiosyncrasies of the Indian and sporting and media and business landscape. So we're all in there figuring that out as we grow. But we need some people to take a leap of faith to put in that money so we can have some large scale events, so we can have more and more teams invested, so we can pay our athletes more, so we can have academies set up, so we can really popularize and market this beautiful part of the sports industry now. So it's critical, and we need people like Ronnie Screwwala and others to do it, because if we don't, we'll keep talking about it. Like if we keep talking about football forever, but then until Reliance came in and pumped in money for ISL, we saw some movement really, and it became a little bit more the larger conversation. And to the question of more revenue streams, yeah, I mean, of course, but that's a given once you have an ecosystem in place. Multiple revenue streams are possible when you have when the ship is moving, when the ship is built and it's moving in the right direction. There's always ways to monetize, because you have fans, you have fan engagement, you have events, you have media, you have all of that. Right now, all aspects of the ecosystem are still in the development phase, and it won't be in a bit more evolved state without money. So I mean, I hope that answers the question, but yeah, that investment is critical, but you need people to build the right business models that make sense for people to invest in. And that's where we need that going on right now.
Absolutely. So, during this lockdown period due to COVID and how things have been spacing up, we have seen a huge boom of people getting into esports in the last 6-7 months. And I'm sure like the government has not yet taken that into consideration. There are other larger aspects to what they would be looking at. But how do you think, how can government come into the whole picture at some point, and what support will government have in making this esports industry a much larger one than what it is currently? That question goes to Gurbaksh.
Yeah, so I think during the lockdown, what we realized is, I think we have realized a lot of talent that's there. Right from a youngster, a young kid from 5 years to like 15 years, just sitting at home, maybe getting used to a new game. Every day the game changes, so you know for a fact that okay, there is this engagement happening. There is something which is gaming. For parents who didn't even know what gaming was, now maybe parents are also, like a father or a mother is now themselves playing a game with the kid. So I think that's a very good positive. In terms of the business, I would say, like I mentioned this to Nivedita, it's lucky to be in this industry, because during lockdown, the only thing that's working is esports, and it's working really well. So it's lucky and great to be in this, this discipline of sport that we have within U Sports. Now, talking about the government, I feel there is not too much happening in terms of what the government is doing, but what the government can do is massive. Like as in terms of what's happening in some of the countries, that governments are including esports in some of their main projects. There are community esports cafes where people can actually go and play. It gives you a very different experience to what normal cafes were there in India that we saw, like those dingy, it used to be on the whole night. Okay, that was a very different experience, and good to have that experience also, because it's kind of given a base to a lot of gamers. But what the government can do is they can have dedicated a time frame, or like these projects where gaming houses, what streaming is, can be taught as a subject, like what GISB, I'm sure through their platform they'll be able to speak so much about, in terms of people who are studying there, what esports is, what the whole ecosystem is, I think. But if given that at an age which is like 7 or 8, I think it's just a game-changing situation, because you are not only just creating a casual gamer into a professional gamer, but tomorrow that kid might be interested in something like computer science, or like what Nivedita was saying, there are so many fields that are there along with gaming that comes. You would like to be a cosplayer, you would like to be a streamer, you would like to be a shoutcaster. Like, in cricket we have seen it. Cricket goes 100 years back. We've seen so many commentators, and they were great commentators, like right from Harsha Bhogle to the big names that are there. But I'm just saying, there are so many avenues or streams that are still there that are unexplored, and people are not aware of it. Kids are not aware of it. Yes, the other challenge is that the game also comes with a license, that the kids can play this game only after the age of 16 or some. There are these age barriers. But my point is, if the kid can actually go with the parent, and if it's kind of set up by the government, I think it's a great learning place to be. Like my nephew, he plays a game called Roblox. He loves the game. The next day he plays Minecraft. The next day after that he's playing PUBG. The kind of knowledge these kids already have, right from opening a mobile phone from a box and knowing all the features, like you can't even think about, and they can do a comparison and they can make a YouTube video in some hours. So my point is, if that's the power, we need to really come to that age and understand that what they are thinking, because you can't be saying that, okay, I know it all, and that age is, he's a kid, or you can't. So the government needs to understand that we really need to acknowledge the fact that what's happening at that age, put a proper structure to that, and get the academies and the grassroots system which is existing for many other sports. And that's why today in the world you have like the Sachins and whatnot, Virats of the world, who have come from that age. So acknowledging, I think, that fact will be very, very crucial.
You're on mute.
So it's more important that we do consider esports as like any other mainstream sports, and that's the best way forward. I just have two more questions, and then we'll be slowly wrapping things up with questions from our viewers. So Nivedita, I'll come to you to put some light on how, according to you, big MNCs or big companies which have not yet come into India with their esports titles, or they might not have a full-fledged esports front, but how are these MNCs supporting communities in developing countries like India to grow, for their esports ecosystem to grow?
Okay, I don't have big insights on that, but one thing I could say is working for Microsoft has been amazing, and I think giving us the exposure to invite globally, right? Like people from all around the world to be part of the event. I feel that in a way is giving more exposure and support to, people from other parts of the world as well, to be in part of these events and, earn prizes. And then they can take that experience, share it with, their community. And then such as yourself, right? Like now you're an entrepreneur, you have your own organization. So that's how I think big MNCs are influencing, other generations, like younger generations and other people in different parts of the world to start up their own organizations and come up with, tournaments and stuff. So I feel that in a way is a really good influence. You're on mute.
Yes, absolutely. So also my last question goes to Neel, like how education sector is coping up to inculcate the professionalism in sports aspirants. I'm not talking esports in specific, but how is the education sector coping up, and how can esports also be brought into that, so that people also think of it as a career right now? I know a lot of people from your institute itself who are passionately into esports, and they have been working really hard to set something up in the ecosystem. So what's your take on that?
I mean, I'm a huge believer in bringing the business of sports into early education. So, I'll get to that. I mean, well, the reason why is that, as we say, it's the business. So you're still going to learn, and you're in school, and say in high school, you're still going to learn maths, you're going to learn sciences, you're going to learn, you're going to learn English or Hindi or whatever it might be. But if there's a way to start bringing in areas that are kind of appeal to certain people, whether it's sports or arts or music, but bring in that as the subject matter. So if I'm going to learn math, I want to learn statistics of cricket, or I'll learn statistics through studying cricket, or learn statistics through other areas but that might connect with people more. So that's something that unfortunately is not happening as much. But one of the reasons why is, and I don't blame the education system. I mean, it's a slow-moving beast globally, not just in India. It's that you need people who are more educated in cricket statistics to teach statistics through cricket, basically. And you need somebody who's educated in esports to teach the business of teach business techniques and practices using esports. Otherwise, you'll have these lost teachers trying to connect with something that they've never really done themselves. As GISB, we're a private institute, so we are funded privately. We have an international certification. We have a lot of flexibility in our curriculum, in how we run our program. So we run our program based on the trends in the industry, what the industry needs. So when our student comes into our program, we want them to become industry ready when they leave. What does that mean? That means that if they join any company, that they're able to contribute right away. And so esports, as I started with earlier, esports is definitely important. So what we've done is we've tied up with the Esports Federation of India. We have people from many companies such as Youth Sports and others who come in and do lectures. We try to bring in and encourage our students to do esports tournaments within our system. So I can speak for really GISB and others, is that we're trying our best to ensure that our students get hands-on practice around the area of esports. So when they try to join a company in the ecosystem of esports, they come with experience. And the last thing, and I really urge more educational institutes to do the same. One thing I just want to touch on that's important, and Nivedita was kind of talking about it as related to your company as well, is that we're talking about, there's two aspects of the ecosystem. There's one is the high one where we want these massive tournaments, mega events in esports and be in the Olympics and Asian Games, and that's great. But there's also people who want to do something in esports. You need something at the micro level, at the base level. And I urge people, because there's a lot of gamers out there that are probably listening as well, that may not become a professional esports athlete, at some point, or a professional gamer. Even at a younger age, it's important to start thinking about if you want to create a career in this particular field, just organize some esports tournaments for your friends. Super Teak at Youth Sports, he tells a story about how he used to do that in his university, and that turned into a lot of work that he did at Red Bull. If you just start, and this is fun, it's not even work. And then if you start doing that and you start selling sponsorships for it, you get some tie-ups, you get some registration fee, even if it's a couple hundred rupees or 100 rupee or 50, whatever it might be. If you take that experience and you go to somebody who works in the field later on in your life and you say, hey, look, I'm a gamer, I love esports, and I've also organized